This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Jurassic Park Minute. Jurassic Park Minute is the fan podcast that chronicles and overanalyzes the classic 1993 film Jurassic Park minute by minute. I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And today we're here to bring you minute number 33 of Jurassic Park. Brady, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. We got some cool stuff going on in this minute. So.
Yeah, I've kind of been waiting to get to this minute too because it has something that I really wanted to ask you about, but we're going to have to recap the minute at first to kind of talk about what it is that really has always bothered me with this minute, and I'm wondering if you picked up on the same thing.
All right. Well, let's do it.
Let's do it. Here's a breakdown of minute number 33. In the previous minute, we saw the feeding of a cow to the velociraptors. As the minute ended, the group stood at the side of the paddock watching the chaos ensue. At minute number 33, we see Malcolm and Ellie watching with horror at the covered feeding frenzy going on below them. At 33:05, we cut to a shot of the group looking into the paddock. Hammond looks at Grant as if to gauge his response. At 33:12, we hear a voice say, "They should all be destroyed." Robert Muldoon walks up the staircase. Hammond introduces Muldoon as his game warden from Kenya. Hammond calls Muldoon an alarmist, but says that he knows more about raptors than anyone. Grant introduces himself and asks Muldoon about the raptors' growth rate. Muldoon tells Grant that they are lethal at 8 months. Muldoon states that he has hunted most things that can hunt you back, and that the raptors can move at cheetah speeds in the open, and that they are astonishing jumpers. Grant motions for Ellie to come join him. Hammond tells them that they are taking extreme precautions, then turns to talk to Ellie and Gennaro about their sea bass dinner. At 33:40, Grant asks Muldoon about the raptors' intelligence. Muldoon tells him that they are extremely smart and have even shown to have problem-solving characteristics. Muldoon says that the big one is the smartest. He goes on to say that there were originally 8 raptors until she came in and killed all but 2 of the other raptors. Muldoon says that when she looks at you, you can tell she's working things out. And thus ends minute 33 of Jurassic Park. So, about halfway through this minute, there is a shot where Muldoon and Grant are talking to each other, and it's kind of shot from the side, and John Hammond turns around to talk to Gennaro and Ellie about the sea bass dinner or something like that. And I think it might even carry on over into the next minute, but it seems to me like almost like a B-roll or a coverage shot that they didn't reposition the cameras for. Grant and Muldoon are at the far side of the screen, which would be the furthest from the audience. They're talking. You can hear their dialogue over everything else. Now, usually when you have a couple of characters talking, you want them to be centered on the screen or a little bit closer to the audience. You don't want anything between you and the character, unless like maybe it's like a Jason Bourne spy movie and the characters are supposed to be at a distance and you're supposed to hear what they're saying, or some sort of weird thing that Steven Soderbergh might do in one of his movies. But this one, it seems like they maybe shot a couple of angles and all the film got destroyed, and instead of going back to get pickup shots, they just stuck with what they had.
In any other case, I would say that's probably the case, but not in the case of Steven Spielberg. If you look at basically his entire body of work, you're going to see some kind of wide shot with multiple conversations going on either end. One thing that immediately comes to mind is in the beginning of Jaws, where Chief Brody's on the phone in his kitchen, and on the other side, far on the other side, is a conversation going on between the mother and son about how he cut his hand. Mm-hmm. Numerous other examples that, of course, aren't coming to mind right now. In all of my preparation for Goonies Minute, that's coming up on the 12th, I have noticed that there's a lot of that stuff going on in that movie. Now, granted, I know that's a Richard Donner film, but Spielberg, it's got his stamp all over it.
Yeah, it does.
And there's so many cases of that same thing going on in that. So I think it's intentional for sure. And, obviously played for laughs whenever they, he's talking about the, lunch they're going to have or whatever. And then there's the raptor scream and they turn back around. But no, I definitely think that's intentional.
He does. One of the reasons that I think it's that I had that feeling about it, I guess, is that because John Hammond or Richard Attenborough does something where there's a noise that happens, like you said, the screech. And before that, he's kind of moving his hand around, and it seems like a lot of very improv acting, like an extra would do or something like that. Like he's just kind of talking, but you're supposed to be paying attention to the guys who are kind of covered up by a lot of this action.
Yeah, and who knows, man? It may have been improv. Yeah, Spielberg might have just said, "Okay, here, you do it. You're the professional actor. Cover this dialogue, whatever."
Yeah.
And who knows? Who knows? I think it's a funny moment, though.
And Malcolm's not really doing a whole lot of anything. He's still doing that thing where he's kind of brooding.
Yeah, I mean, you really see that he's, continuing to show his just dubiousness over the whole thing.
Yeah, he's very troubled by what's going on, and that kind of carries over into what's going to be coming up on Monday, where the minute, or maybe it's Tuesday, the long dinner table conversation where he talks about, that dinosaurs had their chance and they were killed out. All of that conversation he's having there about the rape of the natural world, this is all leading up to that. So the whole thing with him at the very opening of this minute is him through the foliage looking at all the killing going on down below, and you can tell he's deeply troubled by everything that's happened here. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And in the next minute, there's something interesting that goes on with Malcolm's broodingness right here that I think is kind of interesting. But we'll get there in minute 34.
Is this the only scene where Grant and Muldoon are together?
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah, and dude, that would have been so cool to see these guys just kind of going at it, talking, worshiping raptors, basically.
It seems like there's a level of mutual respect when they come out. Grant
absolutely.
wants to know, like, okay, you're the guy who's been with the Raptors. The Raptors are the thing that clearly I have the most theories about. Tell me all about them. And Muldoon seems to be very open to sharing the information with him, so it would be kind of cool to see the two of them together, hunting dinosaurs, or, maybe using Grant's intellect about what he thinks Raptor would do and Muldoon's kind of like street knowledge on it.
I think, yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. I think a lot of those conversations would basically be just talking about how Raptors do not need to be at the park, because both of these guys, we've seen, Muldoon say in this very minute they should all be destroyed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Grant in one of the previous minutes, you bred Raptors. And showing that these things just they have no place here.
Right.
It seems like Muldoon is the only guy in this movie with any sense.
Yeah.
He knows
I think so.
The shit's going to hit the fan because he's seen it and he just already knows it. And I don't know, man. I got some thoughts on Muldoon and his death, which I know we're going to get to later on in the movie.
Yeah. But you're right. He is the most pragmatic and practical character because of what we saw at the very first minute of this movie, where first couple of minutes where he had to deal with the death of the gatekeeper personally. He knows firsthand that these things can, jump 15 feet in the air and that they're cheetah speed, which, by the way, for a bipedal animal like cheetah speed is incredible. Could you imagine what that would look like?
Oh my God, yeah.
And I imagine it'd probably be like kind of an ostrich, like running at high speed. That's the only thing I could think of. The ostrich, 2 legs, and they can actually move really fast.
And again, tomorrow I've got all kinds of information on that. And the speed of these animals. So, I really like poetic justice in movies and everything. And Muldoon is fascinated. His expertise in understanding of the big one, as he calls the raptor, who's been basically killing off the other ones and having the rest of them systematically test the weaknesses of the fences and remembering what to screw with and what not to screw with.
Right.
And even though it's very fitting that he's killed off by the big one, that's the one he's aiming for at the end, and she has ordered his death by telling the other raptor to come out from the side. So, his statement, clever girl, is being said towards the raptor in front of him that he was aiming for. That's the big one, if I'm not mistaken. And I've always felt that his death in this movie he was kind of wasted in this movie. And it's got to be there to show, like I'm saying, it's that poetic justice. This guy who has all this understanding of raptors, wants them all dead, blah, 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 ends up getting killed by the one that he's such an expert on. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of got to happen. But man, what a cool character that is really built up. We're meant to like him and all this. And then he's just killed like that.
Well, he's the guy with the big gun, right? And the thing in these movies is that it's more fulfilling to see a character who uses their smarts, to get through a problem, their problem-solving skills, than it is the person with most guns. And
okay, that's a good point. Yeah. Even the guy who has, I guess aside from Grant, the most understanding of these things still couldn't outsmart him. Mm-hmm.
Think about like Schwarzenegger's Commando. Like that's the only time where you just see somebody with all the guns coming through and just destroying everything in front of him. And it's kind of cool for like a power fantasy type thing, but I wouldn't put Commando, the character of John Matrix, on the same level of fulfillment as something like a character like Indiana Jones, who, Indiana Jones punches a lot, but he also uses his brains, his wits to get out of situations.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the best example, because Indiana Jones does just kind of like the first thing he does is punch. The first thing he does is punch somebody. The first thing Han Solo does is shoot. Han doesn't think about anything. Han just shoots.
All right, perfect example, MacGyver.
Exactly, MacGyver. Yeah, uses his wits to get out of situations. So, Doctor Who, characters like that.
There you go. Hammond's look at Grant is a really cool moment.
Yeah.
That I've got him. I've got him right where I want him.
Well, was that your reading on it? Because my reading of it was kind of he was testing to see what Grant thought, because Grant really has this kind of like look of horror on his face as they're seeing the cow get torn apart. So I kind of took it as him kind of like was it a mistake for me to bring this guy here? Is he buying into what I'm saying? Maybe I should stuff this guy's stomach full of delicious sea bass before he's able to make a judgment on what's going on here.
Do you think he'd be having that thought with a smile on his face?
I guess I'm not. I must have been looking at the eyes. I didn't see him smiling. But
yeah, he's kind of got this little smile that he's like trying to hide.
Okay.
But it's a cool moment. And the expression on Grant's face is kind of similar to his reaction that he had to the Brachiosaurus earlier when he said, they're moving in herds, they do move in herds. And now he's seeing these raptors behaving the way that he has always imagined they would.
Yeah. In one situation, it was kind of delight to know, like, oh, I was right about this one, but this one's kind of the horror of like, oh, I know how these things will probably get out and start hunting people at some point.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So I want to get in. We're going to go real deep into the Muldoon thing here.
Yeah, do it, because I know I've taken a lot of notes here on Muldoon. Let me know what your thoughts are.
And of course, there's going to be so much more throughout the movie because this is a fascinating character. But with Star Wars Minute, I know that those guys they try and avoid going into some of the merchandising that went along with the movies, and a big part of that was the toy line that came with Star Wars, which is just it's a world unto itself.
Right.
It really is. In fact, there's a really cool documentary called Plastic Galaxy that's all about collectors of Star Wars action figures and memorabilia. But I can remember when the Jurassic Park figures came out. It was, I think, a little bit before the movie, and just getting all of them and saying, this is going to be so awesome. Look at all these cool figures. This movie is just going to be incredible if they're all in it. And the Muldoon action figure looked nothing like he did in the movie.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And then there was a second wave of figures that came out, and his likeness was like, top notch. I mean, it looked just like Bob Peck, the actor.
Yeah.
So
didn't they repurpose a bunch of toys from the Aliens line? I think they did.
We're going to go on a tangent here. Aliens toys that came out.
Yeah, the
was
Kenner
like
line.
Several years after the movie. What was that about?
Okay, so there was actually a cartoon called Operation Aliens that was made. That was, at least some segments of it were produced. No one's ever, I think, found like a full actual clip of it, but you can find like screenshots online of the cartoon that was made. And then somebody in the middle of all this said, like, you know what, maybe taking a rated R movie and focusing it as like a Saturday morning cartoon for kids is probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
So that got canceled. But you can still find there was a, you know how when you had action figures, you had the carrying cases? Like I still have my Darth Vader and I think you had C-3PO. They had one for Aliens that had Operation Aliens printed on the front of it, and that was kind of a clue into people like, oh, well, there's something else going on here. There's an Aliens cartoon that was coming down the line at some point.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it was a very strange line, but it was produced by Kenner, and Kenner also made the Jurassic Park action figures. And if I remember correctly, and we'll get back to what you're talking about in a second, the Tyrannosaurus Rex from that line was one of the best produced toys I think I've ever seen in my life.
Cool. You like squeeze its hips or something like that and it roars?
Yeah, it roared. I think the mouth open. And then for
awesome.
Lost World, it was the bull T-Rex. And that one actually had a stomach that you could like have it swallow action figures, and you could reach into its stomach and pull them back out. So those were both awesome.
There's a podcast I'm a big fan of. It's the Jurassic Park podcast. That's what it's called. And they've talked about, every now and then they'll just cover like memorabilia from the movies or just different types of things like that. The Jurassic World toy line apparently just had the worst looking dinosaurs. None of the like action figures, the people from the movie, like, this is one of the biggest movies of all time. How the hell could you not cash in on that anymore? Are kids just not playing with toys or something?
They really aren't. And toys that are marketed towards kids are not like when we were kids. Like we had G.I. Joes with guns and stuff like that, right? Like in a post-Columbine world, you kind of want to have a softer toy come out for kids. So kids are into like the overly artistic animated versions of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys and stuff like that. There's Star Wars toys and stuff, but realistic to the movie is not for that market anymore, for actual kids who are playing with toys. That's for the dudes like me that don't have kids and go into Toys R Us. So we want to buy the photorealistic NECA versions of toys, or the Marvel Legends line or something like that. But I could talk about this stuff all day, but I know at some point you want to get back to the movie stuff.
That's all I've got for this minute.
Well, let's talk real quick. We've been talking about it a little bit day by day, but the day gets closer. Every day we talk about it. Goonies Minute's going to be coming up real soon, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
12/12/16.
Yeah. Now, today is the first day of December, so we got just, 11 days left before that drops. Is there going to be a pilot episode for that coming out?
There will be. And I'm not going to tell you when, so just keep checking back for Goonies Minute. And, of course, we're going to be announcing it on here, on anywhere you can find information from Pele Media. You're going to be hearing about Goonies Minute.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a whole bunch of goodies for you.
So you and Chris McMahon will be getting together, recording that pilot sometime soon. That'll be dropping. And then the first episode, minute number 0 of Goonies Minute, is going to be coming down the line December 12th. So, folks, if you're not subscribed to it right now, go to iTunes, go to Overcast, go to Stitcher. I think we might not be on Stitcher just yet. I think I was having some trouble with that. But, it'll be on there by the time the first episode drops. So wherever you listen to this, wherever fine podcasts are available, you will be able to find Goonies Minute. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Put together the clips for you guys right now. And
That's right. It's heavy into production, man. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, all right, well, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, let's go.
Great. All right, folks, well, join us back tomorrow for Friday, minute number 34. This is going to be here sooner than you know. It's just one sleep away. Folks, I'm Kyle.
I'm Brady.
And until next time, hold on to your butts.
Jurassic Park Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the podcast, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can contact us at JurassicParkMinute@gmail.com and visit us online at JurassicParkMinute.com, Facebook.com/Jurassic Park Minute, and Twitter.com/Jurassic Minute.
You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Pele Media and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/Pele Media.